Hi, this is Mike Busic. I'm Director of the Shockwave Division of Zimmer, and this video is about maintenance and operation of the Z-Wave or impulse devices. I'm going to show you a few things that maybe you're not aware of that may be helpful in the maintenance and operation of the device. You saw the off-on switch is below the screen here on the right, and there's a banner on the bottom that your device may say Zimmer Aesthetic Division. That's how it comes from the factory. You're able to change this to customize to your own business if you'd like, and I'll show you that in a second. On the screen there's only two choices. You can choose settings and you can choose start. Start meaning starting your actual treatment. So we're going to go to settings here, and there's a lot of things to choose from here, but I'm just going to show you a few things that are very important. First of all, you can change the brightness and the volume of the beeping of the screen itself. And then you can see down below that it says handpiece and it says counter status. This is a really important piece of information for you to keep track of, because it shows for pulse number 1 and pulses for number 2. So handpiece number 1 is on the left side of the screen. Handpiece number 2 is on the right side of the screen. You may be able to see, for instance, that for pulse number 1, or handpiece number 1, it has 238,000 pulses right now. And handpiece number 2 has 60,000 pulses right now. Where this comes into play is concerning warranty for the handpieces, and then when to change some of the parts that you may wear out over time. If you go to the screen here where it says welcome, this is where you're allowed to change that banner on the bottom of the home page that said Zimmer MedizinSystems. You can change, you can customize the banner itself to reflect your own business's name. And then once you've changed the name here, you can just say OK and it'll save that name. There is another page called Maintenance. You touch here and it says Maintenance. And it says handpiece detected. You can test each handpiece. So if I touch this button here, you'll hear it tests the handpiece on the left. If I touch here, it tests the handpiece on the right. That's most of the things you'll be concerned with these pages. Hitting the check button brings you back to the home page. And then you go to Start. The Z-Wave Pro, the default screen when you hit start, is for cellulite, which is the most common use for this in the aesthetic sense. And we usually use these settings as defaults for other settings we may do. For instance, when we're using our device in conjunction with a fat killing device, fat destruction device, we will typically use cellulite stage 2 presets. By hitting the button that said, I'm going to go back again to show you one more time. If I hit cellulite stage 2, and I go to application, you'll see the presets are for 2,900 pulses at 16 Hertz. Whenever you go into a treatment mode, it always defaults at 0 energy because you don't want to fire the machine by accident. And all you have to do is then decide what energy you want to use, and this is the most common setting we use for many of our treatments, including doing it immediately after a fat destruction device. 120 millijoules, 2,900 pulses, and a repetition rate at 16 Hertz or 16 pulses per second. You can change that here too. So if you ever want to use more than 120 millijoules, let's say for the most severe cellulite, deeper dimpling, you can turn this down to 10 Hertz, and that's on our treatment guideline, by the way. And you can then go up to 185 millijoules. You can go slower too, but 10 is the fastest rep rate you can have at our highest energies. When you're doing a treatment, a long treatment, like cellulite for instance, we found that it's best to alternate handpieces so the handpieces stay comfortably warm, don't get too hot for your use. And so what we do is we do typically 1 or 2 zones at a time. and just by the push of a button, it'll switch to the other handpiece. And then you do two zones, and you switch back to this handpiece. That way, it accommodates the long treatment you may do with cellulite. A couple of things I want to point out and note. When you switch from, you see right now on handpiece number 1, it's at 120 millijoules. And when you switch to another handpiece, the energy automatically defaults to 0 millijoules. So don't forget, when you push that foot pedal and nothing happens, you don't have to freak out a little bit. All you have to do is remember to then dial in the energy. And then when I switch back to handpiece number 1, you can see it goes back down to 0 again. Always remember to dial up the energy you're looking for in your treatment. On the counter itself, you can change the counter to a customizable number of pulses if you prefer, just by touching the large number, and you can change it by hundreds or thousands of pulses as a preset. For instance, if I want to add 1,000 pulses, there's 3,900 pulses. I hit check, and now it's going to go 3,900 pulses before it stops. You can choose to go from 3,900 down to 0. For instance, I'll show you here. If I hit the foot pedal here, you'll see the second number below goes down. And it'll automatically stop when it gets to 0. The thing you have to remember, when it gets to 0, it'll stop running and it won't fire again until you reset the pulse counter here. The other thing you can do too, if you prefer, you can go up from 0 to your preset pulse number. We do have these different modes, continuous modes and pulse modes. Quite frankly, we don't use the pulse modes. In fact, I don't know of any time when you'll want to use that versus the continuous mode. You can mimic the pulse modes just by lifting your foot off the foot pedal. Each device comes with Zimmer lotion. While it may seem like magical stuff, it is everyday mineral oil. It's important, however, that you only use mineral oil with our devices and never use anything else, including ultrasound gel. Mineral oil is only provided to allow lubrication on the skin. It's not a conductant, and all you need is about no more than 3 or 4 drops. And then you spread it over the area you're going to treat, put the handpiece on the skin, and then turn the handpiece on and do your treatment. I suggest you keep this bottle and buy mineral oil at any pharmacy, and then refill the bottle as you need it. And then when you want to use it, or aren't using it, you place it back here in the holder behind the monitor. Each device is meant to come with a maintenance guide. You may have purchased your device before the maintenance guide was in existence, and you can get that from us at Zimmer. For the newer devices, one of these foldable maintenance guides is inside the cabinet below the monitor in your cart. What it discusses in the maintenance guide, and I'm going to show you, is when to replace tips and caps. That's the most important thing. And then how to take care of your handpiece. So a handpiece, as we all know, just has 3 components. It has a silicone cap, and the tip, and the handpiece itself. The silicone cap is designed specifically to keep oil from getting inside the handpiece. The inside of the handpiece has no oil. It has a lubricant, but it's just dry graphite. If that graphite gets wet, it can limit the lifespan of your handpiece. So always be aware that if this silicone cap is very loose, or if you use excessive oil where it can get over the top of this, or if it has a little tear in it, please throw away the cap and use a new one. These caps are only $8. The tip itself is meant to be in there very tight. And in the tip, there are another set of O-rings also meant to keep the oil out. On the metal tip itself, you can see there's a thin O-ring between the plastic and the metal, and there's actually another O-ring inside between the plastic and where it meets the metal. It's important that this tip is always screwed all the way down to the handpiece flush. If it's ever open, like you see here, and it can sometimes even loosen by itself, or maybe you've forgotten to tighten it all the way down, oil can get in the inside here. Make sure it's always tight, all the way down. Now, I'm kind of emphasizing this because we have seen handpieces that have limited lifespan just because they didn't follow these simple instructions. I'm going to show you a couple of tips that are different, actually, than what a new tip looks like. So we suggest you replace these tips every 500,000 pulses. I went to a customer's office that once had a tip they never removed. And you can see, and it's shown also here in the maintenance guide, the O-ring for this tip is much wider on the older tip. And what this does now, it provides a gap that if oil gets in the cap or the tip, it can get inside the handpiece and then muck up the handpiece and limit its lifespan. You can also see, perhaps, but you can see it on the maintenance guide itself, this tip where the projectile slams into the tip to make the noises that makes the system work. It can become flattened, very silvery and flattened. That's also another indicator that this needs to be used, needs to be replaced, excuse me. Now, this, if you replace these tips every 500,000 pulses, you'll never get to this point where the O-ring is wide like this and the strike point is actually flattened out. Now, I know that some of you have used ultrasound gel. Ultrasound gel is very sticky. It dries out very quickly, and it will gum up the inside of the handpiece if it gets inside. That's why we suggest you never ever use ultrasound gel. And in fact, if you do use gel, it can void the warranty on the handpiece. Each handpiece comes with a 2 million pulse warranty. I wanted to mention that your device, you may get a warning that your warranty is about up. Think of it like you would when you buy a car with a 36,000 mile limited warranty. When you get to 36,000 miles, the car doesn't stop running, it keeps going, of course. And the better you take care of your car, the longer it will run. It's the same thing with this. What this warranty warning means is that up to 2 million pulses with normal use and care, if the handpiece malfunctions, we will replace it for free. After 2 million pulses, you will have to buy a refurbished handpiece. And if you take care of your handpiece, it should last possibly 2 or 3 million pulses after the warranty is up. As far as cleaning the tips and the caps between cases, after each case, you need to remove the blue cap and wash it with alcohol, an alcohol swab, or a 1x1 or a 2x2. And to get the cap off, you have to oftentimes unscrew the tip so you can get your fingers under the lip of the cap to remove it. Always remember to screw this tip back down before you replace the cap. So now you can use alcohol to clean the entire cap and the tip, and then you can go on to your next case. Occasionally, depending on how much you use your system, you should remove the tip entirely and look inside to see if any oil has leaked inside. And if you see any residue, black residue from the graphite inside, or if you see oil inside, make sure you clean it and dry it before you put the cap back on. And then you're good to go. For some of you, you may not be aware that we have a second, smaller handpiece. For Z-Wave users, this handpiece is used for tighter areas like the submentum, for instance. And then for the Impulse Pro users, they're using this also, this handpiece. There really isn't anything different about the handpiece, it's just because of its size, it's more practical for reaching tighter areas. The tips, however, are quite a bit different, as you can see. However, the maintenance is exactly the same. You should replace these every 500,000 pulses. You should have always this tip be screwed all the way down, and you take care of the caps in exactly the same way. If this handpiece of the tip is actually not always screwed down, because of the vibration, sometimes they can work their way out a little bit. Just make sure you check between each case that each tip is screwed all the way down every single time. This concludes our care and maintenance video. If you have any questions, you're welcome to contact us at zimmerusa.com, and we can address any questions you may have. Thank you.